Hey everyone, it's Frank. So as the weeks go by, I'm going to be occasionally throwing just a quick informational video at you here. This is going to be pretty short, but I do want to cover right here at the beginning a couple of the finer points of file management and some distinctions about things here in GIS. Actually, let's start with the distinction first, and then I'll talk a little bit about file management. So, the distinction I want to cover is, and let me go ahead and bring up my screen here. So, the difference between your data and the map. I'm going to occasionally be asking you guys to turn in some data that you will generate in this course. And the difference between the data and the map is a distinction that kind of gets a little hard for people to wrap their heads around sometimes. So let me go ahead and bring up here. I was just helping out a student with her Transect data earlier today, so I've got some data ready to go here. So now this is a map of a number of Transect points that this student was surveying out there. And what I want to drive home is the difference between the data and the map. So the data is, all the points are being displayed here, and the map is the display and interactions that we're going to be having with it. The reason why this is important is, let's take a look here. I've got her data here in three different forms. This one is actually the CSV. This is the form in which it was brought in. And I can go ahead and bring this up, and I can take a look at the information here, and I can see that this is actually stored on a drive here, and this is stored in a CSV file. Similarly, I can look at this top one here, and I can see that this one has actually been exported out to a ArcInfo shapefile here. And this version of it here has been stored out in a QGIS QPackage format. I'm not going to tell you to be too much of a stickler one way or the other between using shapefiles or Q packages. I think both are fine formats here. The Q package has some advantages here, and I'm going to show you this. And if you guys ever work in the GIS field at some point or another, this is going to be an important distinction, but keep in mind when we're talking about a shapefile, we are not just talking about this .shp file right here. Okay, so here we've got the Cherry Creek Spring 2023-05 .shp file, and you can see that, well, this is not even the largest file here, but this is the .shp file. If you were to send me just this, it would not work. Okay, the shapefile is actually all of these files together. Specifically, the shapefile contains the GIS geometry. This is the coordinates of the points in here. The .dbf file actually contains all the attribute information. The .shx file is the index file that actually contains the links to link each item in the database file with a feature in the SHP shapefile. So this is the SHX file is an important indexing file. The .prj file is a file that contains the coordinate reference system. The CPG file, to tell you the truth, I don't know what it is. If you lost the CPG file, it would be fine. And the QMD file is a metadata file that's generated by QGIS. It's also not required. So the required files in a shapefile are at a minimum these four. But if you're sending me anything, it's just easier to send me all six. And the thing is, don't send them to me together like this. What you would want to do is you'd want to go ahead and select them all and go ahead and put them into a zip file here. And so anytime you're going to go ahead and send a shapefile format, go ahead and put them all together into a zip file. Now, I said there's an advantage to the QGIS format, and that's in this G package, this GeoPackage data here. And you can see that this is a flat file. Okay, this is very nice. All the same information that's contained in these 6 files here in ArcGIS or in shapefile format, it's all contained in this one single flat file here in the GeoPackage. In fact, if we take a look here on our Data Source Manager, which hopefully you guys are working on the Q tutorial. You've already gotten some exposure to this, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look into my directory here. I'm going to go into my Amaze directory and Oakland's directory here. And so here from the data browser, you can see that, yes, I've got the shapefile. The only one that shows up is the .shp. Q is going to handle all the other linkages, so don't worry about that. Here you can see the geopackage file, and you can see that this is actually symbolized as a database file because it's got that little drive drum, and then within it you can see that it is storing the Cherry Creek Spring geopackage thing. The geopackage can actually store multiple layers within it. This is a real advantage. This is a really nice format. So I encourage you guys to get familiar with the geopackage format. It's very versatile. It acts as a portable file geodatabase. It's a flat file, so you don't need to worry about zipping things up or anything like that. It's really quite nice. One other nice feature to Q, although it can occasionally be problematic, is that you can see that the zip file is showing up here. And I can actually browse within it, and you can see I can actually go on in and I can add data. If let me go ahead into my project here, and I can go ahead and remove everything here, and I can actually go ahead and I can add this data and interact with the data straight from the zip file, which is a real advantage. I can use this for file management. I can keep everything straight and keep it all contained in the zip file. The downside to the zip file, to interacting with the data in the zip file, is that it is read-only. Okay, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. You can interact with your data in a zip file, but you will not be able to edit it. Okay, changing symbology and everything, that's great. But you will not be able to edit the data if it's inside a zip file. It's kind of locked up in read-only format. So it's a nice feature that Q offers us, but it's not going to help us out if we're editing data. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. Zip files are fine, just as long as you're not editing. Let me show you the last thing about this kind of subtlety of the difference between the data and the map. So all of these, I'm going to go ahead and quit out of Q here for just a moment. Discard all my edits. So I've been talking about the file formats. So we've got the shapefile format, we've got the geopackage file format, and we've got a zip file format which contains all the information in the shapefile. Now when I talk about there being a distinction between the data and the map, so that's all the data formats. But there's going to be times when I ask people to turn in their data, and often in the past they've gone ahead and sent me this file right here, the QGZ file. What this is this is the QGIS project file. All the work that I've gone ahead and put into symbolizing, you see if I double click on this, this is actually going to open up the project just the way it was when I last saved it. Okay, so all my symbology and everything in here. So the QGIS project file, which is the QGZ, that's really hard to say, QGZ. The QGZ file, it saves this list of layers that I've added into the legend. It saves the symbologies that I've assigned to them. It saves things like the project projection and you know, everything that configures the project that we see here on the screen. That's all saved here in the QGZ file. You can kind of think of this as like an HTML file for configuring a web page. It's just that this is the configuration file for configuring our map project view. Okay, there's no data, and this is the important part. There is no data in the QGZ file. So if I ask you to turn in a data package, make sure you're handing me data and not the QGZ file, okay? Because the QGZ file does not contain data. It contains links to access data, which are probably sitting on a hard drive there on your machine. Maybe you've got them saved in the cloud, or you've got them saved on OneDrive or something like that. But there is no data stored in the QGZ file. It's only links to data that resides somewhere else on your machine. So, so please don't send me a QGZ file when I ask for data. Now, when I talk about data management, and let me go ahead and bring up my screen one more time here. I'm going to give you an example. This is not a requirement, but it's a strong recommendation. Let me bring this back up here, and so let me go into my courses. And what I would recommend is, well, okay, this is maybe not the best way to show it to you because that's how I have it. Machine, I am on the wrong machine to show it to you, but let me go ahead and set this up right now. So if I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set myself up to start working, oh, here it is. Here's my LRS 505. So I'm going to go ahead and start up create a directory for LRAS 505. Highly recommend you create a directory just to contain your work for this class. You guys are going to be downloading a lot of data. And you want to make sure that you know where to look for it, and that you know where to go hunting for it when you need to add it into your project. So as we go through the semester, we're going to be working in these modules, and so I'm going to go ahead and start up a directory here. As the semester goes, I'm going to go ahead and create a directory for each module as we go. There will be a total of eight modules over the course of the next 8 weeks. So go ahead and create a module for each one. Within there, I would recommend going ahead and starting a data directory, and then the rest of it I can go ahead and create within here. But I'll know this way when I'm looking for my data, I can look for it within the data directory. At the very least, I would recommend strongly creating a directory for LRS 505, and then one for each module. Also, one last point: avoid using white spaces. No spaces in your directory names. In fact, if we take a look one more time here at this, you will see that throughout the path name here. Now, unfortunately, OneDrive goes ahead and plugs in some white spaces that I can't get rid of, but everywhere where I can get rid of white spaces, and especially in the file names themselves, here's some Landsat data, and you can see all this Landsat data. There is no white space data that's available. You'll see anytime where I've created something, I create it with no white space. This is going to get particularly important when we get to later in the semester, when we're starting to work with raster data. The raster tools in particular seem sensitive to white spaces in the path names. Basically what it is it's passing an argument onto a script, and if it sees a space, then it might think that that is a break between the path name and some argument that is in that is in the tool that we're submitting something for. So just to be safe, avoid white spaces in your directory names and path names if you can. And at some point in the semester, when things start to break, we may go ahead and look, and we will find a space. Like I said, OneDrive kind of forces them on us sometimes. So actually, I do a lot of my work on the other machine that's over there. You may notice a different perspective from some of my recordings. This one is my teaching machine. That one over there is my GIS machine. So keep that in mind. Avoid white spaces. Keep a good logical directory system. It's going to make your life a lot easier going forward. I've worked with students over the last few semesters teaching this class that have kind of done everything out of their download directory, and well, I had a full head of hair when I started teaching this class. Just don't do that. Don't work out of your download directory. Keep a good directory system to keep good track of your data, and you're going to be much happier for it. Okay, so keep on going with the tutorial, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me, guys, if you have any questions at all. I look forward to working with you guys, and do go ahead and get those intro videos submitted, and please do use that survey that I posted so we can see where everybody's at. All right, thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you guys later.